Hey guys, welcome to a RetroBits road trip special. In this episode, we'll be driving from Washington, D.C. all the way to Toronto, Ontario to pick up a huge lot of vintage computers and parts from an estate sale auction that I won a year and a half ago, right before the start of the pandemic. Before we hit the road, it's probably a good idea to change the oil, check the tires, and give everything a quick once-over. We're looking at just over 1,000 miles round trip, which, hard to believe, is about as much as I've driven in the past 18 months combined. Also, did you know oil comes in cardboard boxes now? Right, we're off bright and early because I have around a 2-hour window to arrive at the border crossing before my COVID test results expire. So while the scenery flies by, let me provide you with some background as to the nature of this particular journey. It all started back in early April of last year. A large lot of vintage computers from an estate sale came up on eBay, located in Ontario, Canada. Details were scant, but the handful of photos there were showed loose and boxed computers, disk drives, monitors, and bins full of who knows what. No description was provided, but a few items caught my eye, and I ended up bidding and winning the auction for $1,500 Canadian, or about $1,200 US. A lot of money to be sure, but a risk I was willing to take because I had a good feeling about this one. But the items were in Canada, and I'm in the US, some 500 miles away. To ship that much stuff would have cost $400, $800, who knows, maybe even more than the cost of the auction itself. The point is, I suspected that the high cost of shipping probably kept the number of bidders down and the final price low. My secret weapon was that I had a relative in the area. My sister graciously offered to meet the seller and take delivery of the items in person for me, so I was able to bid and win without worrying about the overhead of shipping costs at all. My expectation was that I'd be able to run up and retrieve the stuff soon thereafter, as part of a normal family visit. Of course, it was right around the time that the initial wave of the pandemic was ramping up, and soon the border was closed to non-essential travel, and closed it remained for the next year and a half, with my treasure trove of retro goodies stashed away under a bed out of reach. Meanwhile, my sister had to put up with a musty, dusty pile of stuff taking up space, and even worse, she moved during that time and had to relocate it all a second time. As you can imagine, I felt really bad about the whole affair by this point. So, that brings us to the present day. After nearly a year and a half, I'm finally going to relieve my sister of this great burden. After nearly a year and a half, I'm finally going to see what's in all the boxes and whether I got an amazing deal or got taken for a ride. Okay guys, we are finally here after about 10 and a half hours due to a few short stops and rush hour traffic. So let's get inside and say hi and see what we've got. And here we go, down into the basement. And there it is, the auction lot of random Commodore computer stuff. Let's start at the top. This, pretty obvious what it is we're dealing with here. Tractor feed paper, just what it says. This box, no idea what's in it. It is completely full. But the seller didn't really list all of the things. He didn't know what were included in this estate sale. So we're gonna find out. This box, it's partially open. And it looks like cables on the top. There are a couple zip drives on the top, but I really don't know what's in here. The zip drives were not even mentioned in the auction, so that's a surprise to me. This here. Hopefully this one works. You all know the story with my other one. This is exactly what it looks like. Down here, I have no idea what's in this box. Wasn't listed. I do know what's in here, and that will make a fun project for later. This, I believe, is what it says it is. Same for that. And for this. And for this. Now this one, there is an interesting story to what's in here, which I will tell you when we get to unboxing all this stuff. Got one of those, and one of these, and a whole crate full of miscellaneous Commodore and random goodness. Again, no idea what's in here, so we're gonna have a good time unboxing this and finding out what is in there. So there it is. First look at our eBay estate sale. Alright guys, I'm finally back from Toronto and I've unloaded the car. I made the Septandy video. So after 1 year, 5 months, 22 days, and 1,000 miles, it's finally time to open these boxes for the first time and see if I got a good deal or I got ripped off. So now, the moment I've all been waiting for. Alright guys, where to start? Well, I know what everybody wants to see first. So here you guys go. Boom! 1,400 pages of tractor feed printer paper from Staples in Ontario. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I don't collect or use old printers. Maybe I'll give it away on Craigslist. I am glad that I didn't pay to have this shipped from Canada because it would have cost me $50 to have this shipped. So yeah, really glad that I didn't pay for that. So anyway, yeah, printer paper. Exciting. All right, next up, just to get this out of the way since it's big and heavy, is a Commodore 1084 SP, just like the one that I've had since I was a kid that broke recently. So be interesting to see if this one's in good working shape or not. It looks cosmetically in great condition. The bezel is in really good shape. There's not many dings. The door is even intact. You almost never see these machines with a functional door. So that's pretty cool that the door is still there. So what we have here is the 1084 SP by Philips, made in Taiwan in June of 1988. Same exact model and year as mine that has the failed deflection yoke. Be interesting to see if this works as well as it looks. If not, it could be parts for my machine, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it should be in good shape. One interesting thing is that the previous owner has cut out the blanking plate for the SCART connector. Now, there's nothing back there, so he didn't add one. Maybe he was just curious to see if there was a SCART connector back there or not. But that's perfect because I already have the connector and I was planning on soldering it into the main board of my 1084S, so he saved me one step of work when I go to do that on maybe this machine. So moving right along, what we have next is an unboxed Amiga 500, one of the classics. Now, I have never owned an Amiga 500 before. This will be my first. My only experience with the Amiga is the 3000, so it'll be an interesting comparison to go back to the original 68K processor. But this machine appears to be pretty filthy. It's well used and well loved. It's judging by the grime on the keyboard here. Someone has used this machine for a long time and gotten many miles out of it. So it will need a deep cleaning, maybe some sun brighting or retro brighting, but it appears to be fully intact. On this side, there's a panel missing. I'm not sure there's supposed to be something there, but I assume that there's supposed to be a cover of some kind on that bus slot. So on the back, we do have the trap door. Let me grab a screwdriver and see what we can see in there. How does this open? Just a little gentle prying force, maybe? Again, I've never opened one of these before because I've never seen one of these before. All right, so there is something in there. I don't know if that's as standard or if that's an aftermarket upgrade. Let's see if I can gently remove it. Yep, okay, comes right out. There's no indication of what this is. It's soldered closed here and here and here, so I don't think I can just open it up. Not sure if this is a factory part or if this is an aftermarket RAM expansion or something. There's no label on any side, so I don't know what we're dealing with here. I'm just going to put it back for now. Maybe I'll open it up later and we'll find out then. All right, we've got the Amiga 500 hooked up to the Commodore 1084S. We're ready to power it on. The power switch is on the power brick itself, which is unusual. I don't have any other machines that are set up like this, so power brick is right there. Let's give it a switch. Oh, it's doing something. Oh, there we go. Okay, we've got Kickstart 1.2. So this machine has probably not been upgraded since new. I'm assuming that it, would have 1.3 or even 2 point something by now. But let's put a disc in and see what we've got. Oh, there it goes. Awesome. Loading from disk. So I've tried to keep my 3000 relatively stock. I didn't want to modify it too much, but this machine I think will be a perfect platform to try some of the new Raspberry Pi based things like the Pi Storm and the RGB to HDMI. So I'm probably going to do some modification of this machine in future episodes, so look forward to that.
We will not prematurely or unnecessarily risk the cause of worldwide nuclear war in which even the fruits of victory would be acid in our mouth. But neither will we shrink from that risk at any time it must be taken.
All right, next in the pile we have a Commodore 1541-2 drive box. It's been taped multiple times, barely sealed this time around. Let's see if there's actually a 1541-2 in here or not. Oh, okay. We've got styrofoam. That's promising. Hey, we do. No power supply, no cords, and it's filthy, 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 filthy. Let's get this out of the way here. Set that down. All right, so yeah, we do have a 1541-2, and it is grimy and yellowed, so it'll need another deep cleaning and maybe some retro brighting. They did ship it with a, hold on now, this isn't a transit tag or a transit card. This is a bunch of copies on a homemade double-sided floppy. Next, we have a big old box, says Emerson VHS Hi-Fi Stereo. I do not believe that's what's in here. Like the 1541-2, it's covered in many layers of tape, but it doesn't appear to be sealed at all. So let's just bust in here and see what we're dealing with. All right, looks like more drives. Let me take these out and we'll take a look. Got one. We've got two, and other than that, it's just newspaper. More advertising. Oh, here we go. September 7th, 1997. I wonder if these things have been boxed up for that entire time. This may be the first time they've seen the sun in many years. So, let's see what we're dealing with. That's a 1571. And this is tied up Not going to bother to untie it. Too much effort. Alright. It is another 1541-2. These are in slightly better condition. They're still kind of yellowed, still kind of dirty, but physically they look to be in good shape. Like the last drive, they both have discs in them. They're not transit cards, they're just blanks, but I appreciate that, better than nothing. Again, no power supplies, no cords, but it looks to be in pretty decent shape. Yeah, just some yellowing. No rattles, no broken plastics. Yeah. So we've got 3 drives in total now. 2 1541-2s and a 1571. Next up, we've got this moving box that we peeked in the basement because it wasn't fully taped, it was only mostly taped. So we have a kind of an idea of what's on top of this, but no idea what's inside the bottom. So let's have a look. There seems to be an advertisement for breakfast cereal, or an old cereal box. I don't know what this is, it's not labeled. This is interesting. Okay, well, not sure what that's all about. But we clearly have a bunch of cables. Oh, there's some power supplies right there. That might be for one of the 1541-2s. And some zip drives. That has nothing to do with the Commodore or vintage computer stuff. I'm going to move this box to the side and we'll take some stuff out and see what we're dealing with here. Alright, let's get this thing unpacked. We have a number of IEC cables, power cords, more. So these must be all the things that go with the drives that weren't in the drive boxes. It looks like there's a number of IEC cables, a number of power cables, even more, lots of them. So, oh, and here we've got a 1084 video cable. This is for the digital RGBI. This is for a Commodore 128. More power cords. This looks like a proprietary or a parallel interface. Could be wrong about that. More IEC cords. A Centronics printer parallel cable. DB25 serial or parallel cable, not sure which. There we go with the power supply. Alright, I'm going to move all these right out of the way. That's a lot of cables to sort through. We'll match them up to stuff later. Next in this box we have not one, but 2 iOmega zip drives. This one might be broken. Parallel interface. Parallel interface. I already have one of these from way back in the day. I don't need 3 zip drives with parallel interfaces, so these I'm going to move these right along. I have no use for multiple parallel port zip drives. Next, there's this thing. It says Grundig GDSM 3300 Universal. Some kind of receiver, perhaps? An antenna? It's got a 3-pin DIN. I have no idea what this all is about. Next in the box, we've got a power supply. This is definitely for one of the 1541-2s, so that's great. We'll test that out later on. We also have a bunch of iOmega parallel port cables. Nothing exciting there. Move those right along with the rest. Next in this bin is a disk drive. This doesn't appear to be a Commodore drive, does it? Let's take a look. What do we got? Oh, it's an external Amiga 3.5-inch drive with an integrated cable. So that's kind of cool. That's a neat surprise. Let's see what we're dealing with here. This is an Amiga 1010 external 3.5-inch disk drive. I assume this is a double density, double-sided drive, but I don't know for sure. I've never owned one of these or used one of these before, but that is a pleasant surprise to find in the box. Commodore 128 system guide, kind of faded. Have a bunch of these already, but cool. a manual. Now this is interesting. It's a packet. It says 1972 Sun Special Canada Russia something series. So it looks like they're trying to protect some sort of document. Let's open it very carefully just in case there's something in here. That's paper. Oh, yep, I can see it right there. It is a newspaper. Yeah, it's the Toronto, Ontario, Saturday, September 30th, 1972 Sun. 10 cents. Next up in the box is an Amiga tank mouse. It's really, really yellowed on the top, and it has a decayed rubber band that is absolutely glued to the mouse. So this will need a good cleaning. Pretty gross, but it's intact. It's complete. So that's nice. Next is another one of those Grundig things. So it's a pair. Maybe they're tiny speakers. Maybe these are itty bitty little speakers, not antennas after all, because there's two of them. I've never seen speakers that connect with a 3-pin DIN before. That's not usual, but yeah, I don't know. If you know what this is, by all means, let me know. Packet of discs, Lodestar 128. Yep, they're all Lodestar discs. That's cool. Commodore 128 discs from Lodestar. There's an entire box of media. These all appear to be... Oh, okay. Copy. More Lodestar 128 stuff. I'm gonna have to go through all the discs one at a time and separate them into different piles of things. Some originals, some copies. Blackjack, copies. Dated draft choice, professional drafting and design package for IBM PC, not for Commodore. So looks like some budget software here, a lot of budget software. Copies, Lodestar, a bunch of stuff like that. Next in the box we have a bracket. I don't know if this is the edge bracket for the Amiga. I'm gonna go check right now, but I suspect that's what this is. Yep, I was right. It was the cover for the Amiga's edge connector. Moving along, grocery bag full of a Commodore C2N cassette player. I already have one of those, gifted to me by Dan, so now I have two. Actually, it's possible that now I have three. Let's see what's in this one. Hey, look at that, it's a Commodore C2N cassette. Yep, so now I have three of these. We'll be moving these right along. I don't need three. All right, we're almost down to the bottom of the box now. I think this is the last big item in that one moving box. And it is another 1571. It has another disc in it. Yep, another copy of the thing. It's also very yellowed, and you can see there was a 1541-2 sitting on top of it right there. But yeah, this is a surprise, which brings up an interesting point, because with any big lot that you buy sight unseen, there's a certain amount of risk and reward. You have to front some money not knowing what you're getting, and so you have to kind of take your best educated guess as to whether you're going to make it back or not, or whether the items are going to be worth it. It's still to be determined if these are in good working condition or not, but based on what I've seen so far, apart from some cosmetic issues, they all look to be well kept. They don't look like they've been stored in a wet environment. They're all dry. There still could be some surprises inside, but they all look like they were used by someone who cared about them. And so far it's looking pretty good. It doesn't look like I've wasted my time or wasted my money, because there is a substantial amount of time investment in testing, retrieving, fixing, and selling on eBay anything that you don't want. You stand to lose from time to time when you deal with buyers on eBay. So there's always a risk versus reward here. Okay, final things in the box. At the very bottom, we have X-Tech Super Graphics Junior. That's just a printer interface for Commodore. Not much use for that. We have a power brick. This looks to be of the C64C vintage, so probably won't use that. And we have a power brick with a square end. So this is either for an Amiga or a Commodore 128. Yep, Commodore 128 says so right there. And a few other things, some power cords for the zip drives. And to round it all off, we've got a Nerf dart. All right, that's it for this box. Moving on to the next. Next up, we've got a Mr. Freeze box. This was not part of the estate sale auction lot. This box came as a separate delivery from the World of Commodore 2020, which was hosted virtually last year, put on by the Toronto Pet Users Club. They had a virtual marketplace where I was able to find some interesting items and have them delivered along with the estate sale lot to my sister, and it's been there since then as well. What we have here is a brand new, never used Commodore 1581 shell. The story behind these is that when Commodore manufactured too many 1581s that weren't being sold, they harvested the drive mechanisms for the Amigas, and then they had a bunch of logic boards, power supplies, and plastic shells that weren't being used for anything. And these were purchased by a third party, and for many years you could buy yourself a kit where you would make your own brand new 1581 drive by populating the drive back from another drive mechanism. This is just an empty shell. It does not have the logic board or power supply, but it's going to show up soon in another video where we're going to be making a brand new 1581 from a reproduction logic board and a PC 3.5-inch drive. Also in the box, we have a brand new sealed copy of Oh No More Lemmings for the Amiga. This was $2 and this was $15. So I thought it was a really good find and a pickup from the World of Commodore 2020. Right, we've already seen power supplies, cables, and drives for a Commodore 64. I assume that's what we're dealing with here. Let's make sure that there is in fact a Commodore 64 in this box. Okay, we've got ourselves another power supply, and we have the machine is wrapped up, preserved, along with this is an Amiga video cable. This is not for the Commodore 64 at all. It looks to be new, new in package maybe? New in package Amiga RGB video cable. Interesting. At the machine itself, it's nice that they kept the original plastic styrofoam inserts and wrapped everything nicely in these bags. I wonder how long these machines have been in storage. I wonder if the previous owner had these for years and years, since 1997 perhaps, like we saw with that newspaper. Maybe they've been in storage and haven't been used since then. Let's take a look. It's really nice that they wrap them up in plastic just in case to keep moisture out of them. That's a really nice touch. Double wrap even. Oh yeah. So just like the other machines, this 64C looks to be completely intact. It also looks to be very yellowed. Unlike the Amiga, it is not particularly dirty. The keys do show a little bit of, standard keyboard grime, keyboard plaque, if you will. But all in all, it's not in too bad of a condition. Yep, made in USA. Commodore 64C. Yeah, there's not much to say about this. It is what it is. All right, time to test out the C64C, the 1084S, and the more yellowed of the two 1571 drives from earlier. Well, the machine boots. That looks good. The monitor works. That's also good. It looks really clear. No burn-in. No weird colors, no convergence issues, not really. I'm going to call that a win. So we have a working machine and we have a working 1084S. Let's take a look and see if we can load from disk. All right, Well, I'm going to call that a win. It looks like all three of these pieces of hardware are working. I'll do a full diagnostic on the 64 later, but for now, it works to some degree. All right, getting there, guys. I assume, based on the printer paper, that this is actually a printer. It says NX1000 multi-font printer. That's good, it has multi-fonts. From Star Micronics. Never owned a Star Micronics printer. I had one of those Okidata color, like thermal wax kind of transfer for my Commodore 64 back in the day, and an Image Writer 2 for the family's Apple IIc. Never had one of these before. Let's get it open, assuming that this is, in fact, what it says it is on the outside box. Yep. It is. Well, let's get it out. It is, in fact, a big old tractor feed printer, just like it says. Really not much to say about this one. They're big, they're bulky. I'm not really super into old printers. Hey, it still has a cartridge though. Look at that. How do you remove it? Is there an eject mechanism, or does it just pops out, right? Yeah. Still has an ink cartridge, so that's kind of neat. Really easy to install. Well, I might fire this up, give it a shot, see if it still works. It could be fun. Could be fun. You know, heck, I've got enough paper to try it. Next from the pile, you probably saw this when I loaded it into the car. It's unmistakable. It is the Commodore SX64, one of my very own, finally, at long last. If you've seen the SX64 episode where I repaired the RAM from the machine that I had borrowed from Justin, then you'll know that I've lusted after one of these machines ever since I was in junior high school. I finally own one of my own, and this was one of the reasons I even bought this auction lot in the first place, because I saw this machine in one of the pictures, and it looks even better than I could have imagined. The front bezel looks completely intact. It looks very, very clean. The latching mechanisms are there. The keyboard is intact. The handle works. It even has its own keyboard cable, which is often missing from various machines. And one of the blue things fell off, just like on the other machine that we worked on. This one doesn't have a foam-backed adhesive. It is glued on. That's interesting. I wonder if there's a difference in manufacturing between different SX64s, or if that other one had already been repaired once before and the factory used glue on all of them. So that's interesting. We will get this thing hooked up and fired up shortly, but just on cursory examination, look at that. The space bar is much more yellowed than the rest of the keys. The other keys look fantastic. The space bar must be made from a different plastic and molded at a different time. That you often see that on vintage computers, that they use different plastic for certain keys. So maybe a little bit of sun brighting or retro brighting for that. Otherwise, the machine appears to be in fantastic visual condition. There is a little bit of scuffing along one side. I will show you that. So yeah, there we go. There's a little bit of scuffing in the painted surface here, but that's about the extent of the damage that I see. Back here, it looks to be extremely clean. Just a little bit of dust from sitting around in basements for who knows how many years. But yeah, I have high hopes for this machine. This was really one of the reasons that I picked up that auction in the first place. So we will get this thing fired up and tested and see if it actually works or if it has problems. All right, let's see what kind of condition the SX64 is in. I suspect this machine, like the others, has been sitting unused for the last 24 years. So, moment of truth. Oh, the disk drive does not sound healthy. That's the first thing. There's nothing on the screen, but these do take... Oh, there we go. It's starting to warm up, and we have a ready prompt. Okay, so no errors like last time, but yeah, it looks pretty good. Let me throw a disk in there and see if we can load some software, though that disk drive did not sound very healthy. Let me get you zoomed in on that screen too. Yeah, that screen is really hard to photograph. It's hard to see in real life, but it's even worse on the camera. Just bear with me. Let's try something here. Okay, keyboard works, which is good, but it's very, very stiff. Some of the keys take a pretty heavy action to get going. Oh, that's not sounded good. Nope. Okay. Between the sound the drive is making and the fact that it's not seeking, I am going to say this drive needs servicing. But the machine itself at least boots, so that is a good first step. Next up, we have a big old tote of stuff. Of course, we took a quick look in the basement and we saw what was on top. So very quickly, we saw there was a GeoRAM 512 memory expansion for Commodore. That's cool. I have the official Commodore RAM expansion. I've never had a GeoRAM. We have a Commodore 1570 1200 baud modem. I already have one of these. There's not much use for these in this day and age. Kind of an anachronism. I don't have a landline, and yeah, there's not really much use for that. More cables, more floppies. I'm gonna have to go through and sort all of the floppies that were already in the previous box and see what we've got for floppies. It looks to me like every single one of these boxes is full of floppies. Let's take a look. Yes, in fact, that is the case. We have 4 big boxes full of floppy disks. I'm going to go through each one of these 4 boxes of floppies and see if we're dealing with original copies or if we're dealing with basically all backups, data disks, stuff like that. Well, we can see right here, here's an original copy of Road Raider, but right below it, we've got a copy. So it looks like we've got a mix of real and pirated software here. It looks like more pirated software than real software. Oh, this one could be a little bit different. Lots of different color discs here. Nope, these are all copies. Oh, here we go. Here's a real disc. Well, it looks to be a real disc. It says GEOS 64, but I don't believe... Well, that's interesting. It's in German. Huh. So we have some German stuff. That's interesting. We had the Grundig unidentified little piece of technology. We have a bunch of GEOS discs, including this one, also system disk in German. So yeah, maybe the previous owner here was originally from Germany. It doesn't indicate that any of the hardware is from PAL regions, but yeah, some of the software clearly is. So there's a bunch of original GEOS discs in there, and a lot of copies and a lot of data discs. Other stuff, here's a Super Snapshot V3 cart. That's pretty cool. Never owned one of these before. Simon's Basic, that's a pretty popular one from what I am led to believe. Final Cart 3, another nice freezer and utility cartridge. Alright, this appears to be, yeah, based on the DIN plug, this appears to be a joystick for the Tandy TRS-80 color computer line of products and also the Tandy 1000s. So this is what they would have called the deluxe joystick, I believe, for the Tandys. So that's pretty cool to have. These are, you know, pretty few and far between on eBay. I don't have one of these, so that's actually really great because I do have the color computer and some of the games don't work with the keyboard. So that's pretty cool. Another X-Tech Super Graphics Junior. This is the second one. I wonder why there were 2. Maybe one for each computer that was in the lot. Some 3.5-inch discs. No labels. Maybe these are blank. I have to check. Hard to know which machine they would be for if they were formatted. It says DOS formatted, so I'll see if they work on a DOS computer and if they're blank. What else? We've got an Epix joystick. I love these joysticks. They're very ergonomic and they have very tight action. You know, you don't have to work very hard, and they hold really well in your hand, even as an adult. I haven't touched one of these since I was in junior high school maybe, and a friend had one of these, and I really liked it back then. It still seems like it fits pretty well, so that's cool. That's very nice. Another mouse. Is this the tank mouse? Nope, this is a 1351. Huh, that's very fortuitous. I just got my first 1351, and now there's another one in here, so that is pretty cool. Now I have 1351 mice for more than one Commodore, which is always nice. This mouse right here, yep, it's just a PS2 mouse. I don't know what it's doing in here. They probably just tossed it in. Not particularly interesting. Whole bunch of ribbon cables. Appear to be... not sure what this is for. Certainly nothing that... no hardware that came with this thing, unless it's for the printer. Yeah, I don't know. It says bottom on it. This one goes to the bottom. And they're all connected loopback. It looks like they're just Centronics cables. Yeah, they look like they're just Centronics cables. This must be for printers. Oh, okay. We've got another Amiga RGB cable. So the other one was new in box. This one is probably the one that got used. Yeah, somebody's bank statements from their checking account. That's cool. Some paper. Another Commodore 128 RGB cable. Not sure what this is for. I've seen these before somewhere else. It's a DE9 to RCA style plug. Does the 128 output a composite signal? No, it doesn't on the VDC. It does not. Could be Tandy 1000 outputs a composite signal in addition to its RGB. I don't know. That's an interesting thing. We'll have to check this out. That's interesting. It's a little Commodore 64 breakout for split YC and left-right audio, perhaps? Is that the right number of pins? I'm not sure. That might be for something else, or it might be a little breakout for the Commodore. I've never seen one of these before. Okay. This is definitely a Commodore. Yeah, no, there's more pins in the DIN, so that one is definitely not for the Commodore. This looks like a standard Commodore split YC connection. And this looks like something else entirely. It's a 4-pin DIN that has 2 RCA plugs on the end. I do not know what that's for at all. And last but not least, another Commodore power supply. Oh, that wasn't last but not least. A few more discs. And that's it for this box. Wow, a lot of goodies in here. Hey guys, you still with me? Well, I hope you're having fun, because I know I am. And I hope this makes a great video, but you never know until it's done. Anyway, if you remember this box from the basement, I said there was a story behind it. After the auction had closed and the seller had gotten in touch with me about delivering the stuff, he said he had found another monitor and he wanted to know if I wanted it for another $50 Canadian. What do you think? I said. So, in addition to the other one, this is what we got. Alright, so what we have here is another Commodore 1084 made by Philips. This one is not the S model, it only has the mono speaker, but otherwise it's identical to the first one we looked at. Also in good cosmetic condition, but it does have a fine film of grit all over it and build up in the corners as well. So it's been stored differently than the other one, and this one needs more of a cleaning. Still has the door, looks to be intact, and cosmetically it's in great condition. So for $50 Canadian, this made a great pickup and I couldn't say no. So just like before, based on all of the drives we've seen and the software we've seen, I have to believe that there's a Commodore 128 in this box. It wouldn't make any sense for there not to be. But you never know until you look. So let's take a look. Oh yeah, it is in fact the Commodore 128, and it is yellowed as much as all the other ones. We have some silica gel. Are you kidding me? Another Super Graphics Junior. This is the third one. I don't believe it. This guy loved Super Graphics Juniors. And not one, but two 1351s. So I guess today's my lucky day. I now have 4 1351 mice. I have more than 4 Commodores, so that's something. This one has some permanent marker on one of the buttons. That's interesting. And a crack in the mouse, but otherwise, that's cool. Little surprise there. An RF cable. Let's get this thing out of here and see what we're dealing with. Okay, I'm not sure how well this comes through on the camera, but this thing is as yellowed as any machine I've ever owned. I can't believe how yellowed this thing really is compared to other machines of the day that I've had. So I'm not sure if it was just due to heat or direct sunlight or what, but this thing takes the cake. Yeah, it needs a lot of attention. Physically though, no scratches, no scuffs, a little bit dirty on the keys, but not particularly bad. There you go. See, yeah, it wasn't heat. It was it was sunlight. This thing was in the sun for a long time. 1986 Commodore 128. Yep. So high hopes that this thing works. It looks to be unmolested, unmodified, but yeah, just very, very, very yellow. All right, so here we have the super yellowed 128 with the 1084, not S, and the less yellowed of the 1571 drive. So let's see if these all work. Ooh, right off the top, that 15 kilohertz whine sounds to me like the flyback on this thing is on its way out. Let's take a look though, see if it works. All right, the machine powers up, the monitor displays, the drive seeks. Let's just see if 40 column works as well. Okay, so it does display, but it is absurdly loud, that high-pitched whine, so I'm going to shut it off. And we're back with the 1084S again. That monitor was just too loud to use. I think it's on its way out. It's really high-pitched and it hurts the ear, so I'm not going to use it anymore. Instead, we'll test this machine on the monitor we know that works. So, okay, the drive is auto booting. And yeah, we have a menu, but that's pretty ugly. I wonder if that's just the way the software is or there's some corruption there. Let's try it again in 64 mode. Drive seems to be working just fine. Yeah, okay, so the drive's working fine. Not a problem there. So I already have a flat 128 and I already have a 64C, albeit a PAL model, and I don't really have room to store multiple copies of the same machines. So what I'll be doing is I'll be fixing up and testing these machines and then selling the ones I don't want in order to recoup some or all of the cost. Now, of course, that doesn't account for all the time and effort that takes to do that, but that's part of the hobby, that's part of the fun anyway. And at the end of the day, I'll be able to keep the machines I do want, like the Tandy, like the SX64, and like the Amiga, and maybe I'll even break even. Again, not accounting for time or energy. All right, only 2 left to go, guys. And this is by far the heaviest box in the whole lot. So, let's get it open. I did not get to peek in this one before in the basement because it is sealed all the way around. So you and I will be the first ones to see this and find out what's inside. Moment of truth. Oh, I have a feeling I know what we're dealing with here. Yep. All right. We have Learning Basic for Tandy Computers, 3rd edition. Oh yeah, we've got manuals, more Lodestar discs, more 64 discs, 1581 user's guide. There's been no 1581 or evidence of a 1581 yet. Commodore 64 program pack manual, 128 introductory guide. So yeah, we're dealing with the manuals here. Amiga Basic, the SX64 manual, the Amiga 500 introduction. Okay, zip disks, floppy disks, All right, what do we got? Ah, TimeWorks. What's in here? Ooh, TimeWorks WordWriter 3 with spell checker. That's cool for Commodore 64 and 128. 40 column mode, so really just Commodore 64, right? More budget software. GIOS with Quantum Link. Oh, this is cool. Okay, so there's some full box software titles in here. Nice ones too. Test Drive from Accolade. Accolade. Is there anything in here? Maybe. Let's take a look. Yep, okay, the disc's in here. Doesn't look like there's a manual, but there's a disc. Rackham from Accolade. Print Power, this is what, like a IBM Tandy Incompatibles with CGA 256K. So is this like a print shop kind of knockoff, maybe? Never heard of that one. Commodore Basic Programs in Minutes. Cool. Oh, a box of floppy disks that was upside down. All copies. Copies are blanks. Springboard. Okay, this is an interesting plastic case. All right. The Newsroom from Springboard. And this is, oh, that's what's in here. This is the DeskMate and MS-DOS for Tandy. And they had just tucked the Newsroom in there as well. That's interesting. Well, that's cool. Original Tandy discs. Enhancer software for Amiga. 1541 User's Manual. DOS. Zip disks. Zip disks. More disks. More disks. Lots more disks. Lodestar 64er. Zip it. Yep, we got more discs. We've got the Chessmaster. Air Rally. Font Master 2. Personal Finance 128. Oh, and here's a full copy of GIOS version 2.0. Sale, $74.99. So someone paid full price for this. And it's got the discs in there and all the manuals. So that's pretty cool. I've never actually had a retail version of GIOS before. And yeah, there are just tons and tons of user guides, manuals for every piece of software and every piece of hardware that came in those previous boxes. Copy of Pole Position, more Font Master. Yeah, there's... And the only other thing of interest in this box really is the power supply, either for the Amiga or the 128. Yeah, everything else is either a manual, a zip disk, or just, you know, a floppy disk. So that's it. Right, so I've tallied up all the loose disks, and here are the results. In total, there were 10 zip disks, 37 3.5-inch floppies, and over 300 5.25-inch disks, of which 132 were originals and almost 100 were magazine disks or shovelware. The rest are either data disks or backups. Alright guys, we're down to the very last box now, and you knew what was coming because you've seen all the other stuff in the other boxes. So, assuming what's on this box is what it is, let's get inside and take a look. Tons and tons of tape on this box. Lots of old packing tape, but not very much new tape. Oh. And that's it. Okay. Assuming, yep, it is what we thought it was. Let's get this out. Get this out of the way. Here we are. Just in time for the very end of Septandy, what we have here is a Tandy 1000 HX, the one with the built-in 3.5-inch floppy drive. Like the Amiga, This thing is well used and well loved. Look at how dirty these keys are. They are filthy. But the machine itself isn't very yellowed compared to some of the other machines we've seen. So, has a single drive installed. Let's take a look in the expansion bay. Okay, let me get a close-up of this for you. So there is one card. I think this is the Tandy Plus RAM expansion. It looks like every one of the sockets is populated with RAM. There are no ISA adapters, there are no ISA cards. I'm not sure if this adds DMA or if it's just a RAM expansion. I'll have to look into that. I've never owned one of these before. All right, it's time to test the Tandy 1000HX. I've got it hooked up to the 1084S again, just like before. Let's flip the switch. I don't know if you can see that, but it says memory size 640K. So that means that the RAM expansion is fully populated, and that's the maximum amount of memory that this machine can address. So that's great. It's already been fully maximized. And it looks like it's booting from ROM, which the HX and EX can do. Let's skip that. And it looks like we've got MS-DOS version 2.11 in ROM. We don't have a disk in drive A. It looks like, yeah, so the ROM is basically just command-com, autoexec.bat, international driver, and p.com. I don't know what p.com is. Let's find out. Ooh, it's trying to access, oh, okay. It's the Tandy menu program. So run deskmate, set system time and date, view programs on drive A, or start up from internal drive. Okay, so those are all the options we have. I don't have a disk handy, so let me grab one and we can see if the disk drive works. All right, I am back with a copy of Personal Deskmate 2. We'll hit F1 to run Personal Deskmate. And there it goes, the drive is working. Oh, the screen needs to be adjusted a bit. But there we go, Personal Deskmate. We've got our calendar, our notepad, our text, our worksheets, our filer, music, paint, calendar, telecom, and programs. So it looks to be working. In fact, we're 5 for 5. All machines work. Some of them have some disk problems, but otherwise they all seem to be running, and we're 1 for 2 sort of on the monitor situation. But all in all, pretty happy with that result. All these machines are in better shape than I could have hoped for, given the fact that the auction was completely sight unseen. And with that, this 18-month, 1,000-mile epic comes to an end. Or does it? Well, now the real work begins. Cleaning, testing, repairing, selling some of the duplicate items, and making new videos. That should keep me busy for months to come. I do want to shout out to my sister for facilitating this whole endeavor, from meeting the seller to moving all this stuff not once but twice, and storing it much longer than expected. Also, to my partner Elaine for putting up with my overzealous enthusiasm for this hobby and the subsequent explosion of old computer parts all over the living room floor. Right, it's time to decide if I got a good deal or got ripped off. Was the risk worth the reward? I don't think it's even a question at this point. After all is said and done, I think I lucked out with this one and should easily make my initial investment back, provided we don't count time and effort against the total. Of course, there's always the cost of travel, but in this case I was visiting family, which I would have done anyway. The prices shown are all taken from the low to mid-range of recent eBay sales for the same items in tested working condition. An additional factor working to my advantage is that the price of retro gear has jumped sharply since the start of the pandemic, so my additional investment of 18 months of patience will pay dividends. Wow, what an amazing haul! It's taken a lot of time and effort to get to this point, but the experience has been a ton of fun. I'm going to definitely have my hands full testing, repairing, selling, and making videos from all this stuff. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this bit. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.